Please sit down. So why is it so hard for engineers to sell a product? If you have ever built something technically brilliant and then watch customer ignore it, then welcome me in this class. Because I have spent years working with engineers, product team, and customer. And I have noticed something fascinating. Is that engineers often struggle to sell, not because they know too little, but that's the problem. They know too much. That sounds contrary, right? Let me explain what I mean. As an engineer, we spend months or years sometimes understanding system. We know the architecture, we know the trade-off, we know the edge case, we know why a certain database was chosen. We know the performance. We know almost everything about what we are building. We know the security implication. The problem is that after accumulating all this knowledge, it becomes almost impossible to imagine what it is like not know all of it. Because when an engineer presents a product, guess how we usually start? We usually start with feature by presenting the architecture, the performance, the technical superiority of our product. That's how we usually start. Because in our mind, because we understand our product so good, the customer must also understand it as well. But customer rarely buy any of those things. Customer buy the outcome we present to them. They buy a better feature. They buy a solution to a painful problem. That's why they are here. Because nobody buy a drill. There is a famous business lesson that says people don't buy a drill. They buy a hole in the wall. And that's true. Because even that is not entirely true, because they buy the ability to hang a picture of their family. The engineer sees the drill. The customer sees the life improvement. The larger the gap between those two perspectives, the harder the sale becomes. Engineers fall in love with solution, right? We like to provide solution to our customer. Entrepreneurs fall in love with problems. Engineers fall in love with solution. This is not a criticism, let me be clear. It is exactly what makes engineers extraordinary. The challenge is that customers don't wake up thinking, oh, I wish I had a Kubernetes native, AI power, event-driven, whatever, or a different architecture. They don't dream about that. They wake up thinking, I need to reduce costs. I need to save time. I need to make more money. That's how they think. I need to stop this recurring headache. You get the idea? Engineers often explain what the product is. Customers want to know what the product does for them. Because the knowledge gap is different, is really huge. Here is what happened in many technical startups. The founders spent 2 years building. They become one of those world-leading experts on their product. Then they launch the product. And suddenly, they are talking to customers who have spent exactly 0 minutes thinking about their technology. The founder says, we build a distributed platform with real-time synchronization and automation orchestration. Do you think the customer understands this? The customer hears technical noise. He's not here for that. Not because the customer is not smart. No. Because the customer does not care, at least not yet. So the best engineers learn how to translate technical into communication. Because the highest paid engineers in the world are not always the best coder. They are often the best translator. Because they can take something incredibly complex and explain it simply. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, we reduce database query latency by 90%. Let's try to say this. Your team gets report in seconds instead of minutes. How does it sound? Much better already, right? Instead of saying, we automated infrastructure provisioning. Let's say this. Your engineers stop wasting weekends on manual deployment. You can see the difference. The customer wants to hear what he needs. Same technology, different language, different outcome, different sale. You see the difference? Why founder must become storyteller? I believe that's is every successful company tell a story, not a fairy tale, a transformating story. Because the customer start in one state, the customer end in a better state. Your product is simply the bridge. Notice something important. In that story, the hero is not your company. The hero is your customer. Because too many founders make themselves to the hero of the story. Customers don't care how brilliant you are. They care about becoming more successful themselves. You see the difference? That's why we usually talk about this paradox. Because the deeper your expertise become, the harder communication becomes as well. Expert naturally communicate with expert, right? It's easy on that side. That's why many world-class engineers struggle to sell. And why some average technology become billion-dollar business. One group explain technology. The other explain value. You get the idea? Because if you are building a startup, try to remember this. Customers do not pay for complexity. They pay for clarity. They do not buy features. They buy the outcome. Okay? They do not buy technology. They buy transformation. And your job is not to prove how much you know. Your job is to make someone else's life better. The irony is that the more knowledge you accumulate as an engineer, the more discipline it takes to simplify it. But that ability to translate complexity into value is what separates great builder from great founder. In today's world, building is no longer enough. You must also communicate.